We're a week into the league, and it's time to give you guys an update on my Stormweaver character. We've already cleared all the pinnacle content, and are now focused on farming profitably in fully juiced 6-mod, Delirious, T16, and T15 maps. The build's sitting at over 10,000 energy shield, and it has plenty of damage to back it up. On top of that, we've got permanent chill from our Ascendancy, and with a budget pair of unique gloves, we've gained Electrocute, which is basically a 5-second disable that is even stronger than Freeze, giving the build some pretty insane defensive layers. I've been keeping the Mobalytics Warp Stormweaver guide updated, but I do realize there is value in a proper video deep dive as well. So today we're going to hop in game, break down my gear, skill gems, Atlas farming tree, and everything else you could need to understand how our build works. It's your boy AP, and today I'm bringing you the endgame, all content viable Warp Stormweaver. That one went really smooth. Alright, so we're in game, and I think we should just start by going over all my gearing to give you guys some insights to hopefully min-max your characters a little bit further. But first off, I do want to make sure everyone is fully aware that there is the default League Start Stormweaver Sorc build guide on Mobalytics, and this is how you would start off this character. It's got a lot of generic, important information written down that I'm not going to cover in this video, and this will transition into the exact build that we're playing, the Warp Stormweaver. And this is a separate Mobalytics page which has a budget setup that honestly you can do even in the second half of the campaign. This is extremely budget. And then we go into higher and higher budget. And this also has a nice written portion which I'm going to keep improving. So you really should favorite this if you're playing the build and look back to get more and more information. But right now we're looking specifically at my own gearing to give some really hyper-focused deep dive information. All right, so first off, I guess we'll talk about the wand. So I actually have a special base called a dueling wand, and this gives us this Spellslinger ability, which is kind of neat. Now the way Spellslinger works is you can socket in any spell you want. I've chosen Arc, and you're going to notice in the B-roll footage, sometimes you're going to see arcs just blasting out in all directions. It almost looks like a spark blast. And that's because my arc is supported with Sion's Temper. And the way Spellslinger is working for me is it builds up charges, and I can have up to 4 Spellslinger charges. And when it reaches capacity, I have this button and there's no cast time. It's instant use. So as soon as I press this, it unleashes 4 arcs. And because of Sion's Temper, they are going to go in a radius and hit everything. So this is kind of a neat little tech that helps me just clear the screen of all the trash in an instant if I'm maybe warping into a dangerous location. And it's also just a fun button to press. Definitely not mandatory, but this is a little bit of min-maxing you can do. And I have included dueling wands on our endgame filter because I do hope to make a crafting video on how to make your own in the future. But crafting wands is a little bit tricky, and you probably are going to have a lot of these bases. So best to start picking up the bases as soon as possible. Thankfully, they are on the filter. As for the rules on this, the last video on the channel titled How to Fix DPS actually deep dives on damage stats. So for example, it explains why we need cast speed on every single piece of gear, despite it not changing our tooltip. Realistically speaking, cast speed aside, you are going to want to have plus levels to skill gems. The best prefixes would be spell damage, lightning damage, and then gain damage as extra of an element. Technically, lightning is actually better than fire. But realistically, if you're trying to get a dueling wand, you're going to have to get a slightly worse wand because there's so many different bases. And this base, if it's high demand, it's just, you're not going to be able to buy one that's also well rolled. So again, that's why we want to do a crafting video in the future. But that's a little bit of insight on these rolls, you know, cast speed, spells, and the suffixes, prefixes, increases to damage, and damage as extra. As for runes, this is clearly the winner, and it's not even close. +1 level to all spell skills increases the lightning warp by a level, and getting an extra level is just such a massive amount of damage. Realistically, if you don't want to spend this much currency, you could go for a greater storm rune for damage as extra lightning, or you could also go for a greater iron rune, which gives you 30% spell damage. Now, as for the focus, I actually did a crafting stream on this yesterday, and I ended up buying this from one of my viewers because a bunch of people were crafting along with me. The mods you want are obviously in the prefixes, increased spell damage, increased lightning damage are really good. In the suffixes, cast speed, +3 to all spell skill gems, extremely nice. And then there's a bunch of flex slots as well. I do hope to eventually have a craft video on my channel, but I would like to actually succeed in crafting one first because there is a little bit of RNG involved. I might upload the VOD of the whole crafting process on my Anime Princess VOD's channel, which you can find a link to in the video description. And that could be a nice way of helping you guys craft your own up until hopefully my video eventually comes out. And to talk about the soul cores, I'm using Soul Core of Retreat, which gives us faster start of energy shield recharge, and this actually corrupted to get an additional socket, so we're able to use 2 of these. And faster start of energy shield recharge is a very nice stat. You can see for my character, it only takes 1.1 seconds from not taking any damage in order for my energy shield to start to recharge again. And then the other stat, increased energy shield recharge rate, gives us a boost to how fast it recharges. So we're getting 3.6 energy shield recharge per second as long as we haven't taken damage in 1.1 seconds. And that's the way that we stay alive. For the amulet, you can get up to +3 to level of all spell skills. Clearly mine isn't perfect yet. You should try and get at least 21 to spirit as well, because 21 spirit combined with a qualityed Archmage should give you 30 extra spirit after Archmage is accounted for, and that will let us use Convalescence. Convalescence recharges energy shield even if you're taking damage, so it's a really nice button when you're just in a dicey situation. In order to craft the +3 with spirit, you'll likely want to have a +3 amulet and fracture on the +3 using a fracturing orb. So that would be a 1 in 4 chance to actually succeed there. And then you can just chaos spam and you'll get spirit, and you'll also get some other nice stats there. For the anoint, I'm currently using a very budget one called Conservative Casting, which gives us reduced mana costs as well as increased mana regeneration rate. And if I had a really nice amulet, one that we fractured, I'd probably go for Wildstorm, which gives us 15% more to the maximum lightning damage, which is a ton of damage increase. This pairs very well with Lightning is Lucky, and I am getting Lightning is Lucky through Heart of the Well, which is a new unique diamond. We have Lightning damage with hits to be lucky, increased energy shield from the body armor, and a couple other decent stats. And I guess on the topic of jewels, I can touch on just the rare jewels. There is a video on my channel, and it's called Deep Dive Spark Stormweaver Jewels. And you can just use a link in the video description that filters for weighted sum. And you could edit that to take off skill effect duration, because that's one thing that Spark likes that we don't really care about, but otherwise the stats should be pretty similar. As for the rings, increased cast speed is the best stat you can go for because it's such a massive improvement to damage as well as just quality of life. Other than this, for the prefixes, you've got flat maximum mana and you have percentage increased lightning damage as good options. And for the suffixes, we mentioned the cast speed. You could also go for intelligence, which gives us some more mana, as well as simply fixing your resistances. And because cast speed is such a nice scaler, we could make use of the ingenuity belt, which gives us 60% of the stats of our rings. And this is a decent option, mostly because rare belts are not that great. For rare belts, you can get flat mana and a bunch of resistances, and that's fine. On a budget, that's great. But just being able to get some cast speed on the ingenuity from our rings would make this a decent option. And possibly the new Abyss belt could be used as well. Right here. I'm not currently using this, but this may change in the future. I'm considering it. The rest of the gearing is really straightforward. For the body armor, there are a couple base types that give you a free implicit. So you can see this one gives me 49% increased mana regeneration rate on top of everything else. And there is another base that would give you 50% faster start of energy shield recharge. So you could choose one or the other, ideally, then go for really high energy shield. And on the suffixes, either fix your resistances, or also there is a stat that gives you faster start to recharge energy shield in the suffixes. For the helmet, this does not have any special base with an implicit, so we're just aiming for as much energy shield as possible. And in the suffixes, if you can, get some resistances. And there's also the stat in the suffix, increased energy shield recharge rate. So once it kicks in, it regenerates even faster. As for the runes, you really want to use greater iron runes on both because these multiply the energy shield from the base. Now for boots, you want high movement speed. You could get mana in the prefix, and you could just get a bunch of resistances in the suffix. Pretty straightforward there. Mine actually does have increased energy shield recharge rate in the suffix, which is a nice stat. Gloves, Kitoko's current. And this is how we are electrocuting enemies, which I mentioned in the intro. So electrocution is put on enemies through lightning damage, and we are all lightning damage. We do a lot of lightning damage. So we are going to be electrocuting bosses. You're going to see them when they're electrocuted. They're just they're shaking. It looks pretty funny. And it's much safer when you do this. And for the runes on the boot as well as the gloves, I'm just personally capping my resistances. It's not so important to put iron runes in these because there's just a lot less energy shield potential from the boots and the gloves. So might as well use runes to fix your res if needed. Now for the charms, I am using remove ignite as well as cannot be stunned, because ignite is a really terrible ailment. Once you get ignited, it does put a dot on you, and you cannot have your energy shield start to recharge until that dot finishes, and then you also have to wait for the faster start of energy shield recharge to kick in. So we never want to be ignited. Grabbing 2 of those, and stuns also feel pretty bad, especially because we are warping in to melee range. We actually, on the tree, get a lot of mitigation for both ignite and stun. These nodes here, these nodes, as well as these nodes. So we're already quite defensive against it, but my charms do activate occasionally, and I think it is important to have this set up. So you do ideally want to have a belt with 3 charm slots if possible. Alright, I hope that was helpful for the gearing. And one last thing, and this is extremely min-maxed, but I am going to show off my weapon swap. I have a Chiming Staff with level 20 Sigil of Power, and it is qualityed to give us an even bigger radius. As you can see, it's pretty massive. The fact that it's level 20 means it's going to do slightly more damage than the lower level. And the stats on this are cast speed, mana regeneration rate, and 2 Thane Gert's Rune of the Wildness. And if you were to do this tech right here, you put Ball Lightning on Weapon Swap 2, and now it has the cast speed and the mana regeneration rate when this is out, but it also has 50% chance to shoot 5 projectiles instead of 2. And it just gets like really, really crazy. Shoot so many of them out. But the reason why I'm not like really stressing this is because, first of all, these are pretty expensive for level 20 Sigil of Power, and when you're trying to get cast speed and mana regeneration rate on top of that, it becomes really rare. And I also don't even really love to do this because my focus is pretty defensive. It gives me 200 energy shield. So as you can see, it just keeps ping-ponging back from 10.6 down to 9.5. It is really good tech though, and that's why I'm mentioning it. Next up are my skill gems, and this is honestly always being experimented on, so you should be going by the Mobalytics most recent skill gem spec, because that I can keep updating. This is like a snapshot of just what am I doing at this exact second. So Spellslinger from the Dueling Wand has Arc, Lightning Mastery, Efficiency, and Silence Temper. If it felt like I had better mana regeneration rate, we could take this off for a different damage link. Sigil of Power, prolonged duration, so the sigil is going to last a lot longer. Magnified Effect for bigger AoE, and efficiency just because we have the slots and it reduces the mana cost. The Lightning Warp is using Unleash, efficiency, considered casting, deliberation, and Rakiata's Flow. If you can't afford Rakiata's Flow, just use Lightning Pen. Again, this is all in the Mobiletics guide. Ball Lightning has multi-shot, rapid casting, knockback, unleash, efficiency. Now, knockback is nice because sometimes you're just going to accidentally warp into the middle of a bunch of monsters and you got to sort of push them back. And it also pushes them forward so that as you are exploding, they're like going with you and you're hitting them further along. Archmage, Lightning Mastery and Uhtred's Omen technically lower the cost, but it's such a minor difference. With these two socketed in, the mana cost is 232. With these taken off, my mana cost is 237. So realistically, you don't need to socket anything in here, but I just have them in there because I can. Convalescence. If you do have extra spirit, you could use Clarity level 1 if you have 10 spirit, and you can use Clarity level 2 if you have 20 spirit, and this just gives us some free mana regeneration rate if you do happen to have extra spirit. Orb of Storms, realistically, this is not important. I do have Overabundance, Considered Casting, Lightning Mastery, Efficiency, and you know, it's just, there's a button on the hotbar, so if a boss is like loading up, he hasn't done any damage yet, we could just preload a couple, and then they will explode for a little bit more damage once we do our lightning warp. But realistically, the bossing combo is just drop the sigil, warp into the boss, and that is it. It's as simple as that. Very, very easy on the hands, and that's the way we like it. Now, I do want to touch on a support gem that is currently, I believe, bugged, and it can work extremely well in this setup. I'm not currently using it, but there's a good chance we will be making use of it for certain circumstances. And that is the inhibitor support. So the way this reads is you do 4% more damage per different type of infusion on you. So you would think if you have lightning infusions, cold infusions, and fire infusions, that would be 12% total because it's 4 for each. But this is actually working in, it will give you 4% per charge of the infusions. So this can actually give us 60% more damage, which is an insane amount of damage. And the way you set that up is, well, first of all, you're going to have inhibitor in every single spell that spends infusion. So you'd want it in your ball lightning to block it from spending infusions. In this setup, you actually probably would take out Arc and you put in Lightning Conduit because Lightning Conduit doesn't even use infusions. So that would be better. And you would want this on the Lightning Conduit just for the 60% more damage. And you're going to be generating a ton of infusions with Lightning Warp. If you've been playing this build, you do realize it's literally infinite infusions. So to set this up, you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to Elemental Equilibrium. So infusions are now a random element. And we can get +1 over here. So now you're going to have 4 to every infusion. And then you can grab 1, 2, 3, 4. So you can have 5 of every infusion. So now you have 15 total infusions, and that will be multiplied by 4 to give you 60% more damage, which is absolutely ludicrous. So yeah, that's gonna be probably a bossing setup that I'm gonna I don't know if we need to make a new video guide because I'm literally just explaining it right here. It would be Lightning Conduit with this setup, and it'll be much better for doing like your Arbiter 4 or whatever is just extremely hard. The way to stack insane amounts of damage. Is this necessary for generic mapping? You might want to do it anyways because, you know, it's not too many points. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. That is 12 points. It's quite a few points. I do love having all this energy shield. You'd have to struggle to decide what you want to take off, but it probably is worth it for a 60% more multiplier skill gem that has 0% to the increased cost, you know. As for the Atlas tree, you can always find this in the Mobalytics guide if it changes, but I recommend pathing down here through the shrines as well as all of the strong boxes when you're starting out and you're a little bit weak, because shrines make you run through the maps faster, they make you a lot tankier, and the research strong box is a nice source of divine drops, and you want to be alking that. But later on, when you just want to get as much rewards out of your map as possible, you're going to want to get all of this increased effect, because that's how you scale quant, it's how you scale rare monsters, it's how you just make your maps juicier, and then this is some more of it. So you grab all of this. I am not going to unspec out of shrines because shrines just feel so good. We're keeping that permanently, and since we're already down here, might as well keep the strong boxes as well. So that is my Atlas passive tree, and we've been dropping a fair bit of divines with this. It feels really good. All right, and that's the video. Hope you enjoyed it, and we should be live on Twitch when this goes up. Feel free to drop by and say hi. And in the future, you guys can look out for hopefully a 1-button arc or spark build. I'm not sure. I think we're getting close to the point where we're going to want to experiment with some different options here. So that will be in the near future. Catch you guys next one. Peace.